Good morning, and thank you for joining us for this Tuesday update on Hurricane Milton. I'm Ken Welch, Mayor of the City of St. Petersburg. I'm happy to be joined by Representative Kathy Castor, also our Chair of the City Council, Deborah Fick-Sanders, and our Emergency Management Manager, Amber Bolding. And we have our St. Pete team here as well. There hasn't been much change in the latest Milton updates. Milton continues to rapidly intensify and is on track to make landfall on Florida's west coast. I'll reemphasize in the strongest terms possible. This is an incredibly powerful storm, and we all need to take it seriously. There will be extremely high winds with this storm. We're expecting winds of over 100 miles per hour, winds we did not receive with Hurricane Helene. We're also expecting to receive between 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. That is an unprecedented level of storm surge and is twice the level of Hurricane Helene's surge. There are mandatory evacuations in place in zones A, B, and C and all mobile homes. There's currently a pet-friendly shelter in place at Gibbs High School with plenty of capacity. There are resources to help you get to a shelter if you need transportation. There are free evacuation shuttles that you can call to transport you to those shelters. Please call 800-729-3413 from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for evacuation assistance. That's 800-729-3413. The shelters are there for your safety. Please use them if you are in an evacuation zone. Please heed those evacuation orders and evacuate as soon as possible. The time to evacuate is shortening. Now, we have identified another issue related to the rapid strengthening of this hurricane that I want you all to be aware of, and that is the cranes that are operating in our city. Due to Hurricane Milton's rapid intensification and potential wind speeds, there is a risk related to some of the construction cranes that are operating in our city. Due to tower crane height and design, there are 4 construction sites in the downtown St. Petersburg area and Gateway that are susceptible to the anticipated high winds forecast for the approaching hurricane. This means residents near those 4 construction sites are at risk for those cranes malfunctioning during the storm. The 4 construction sites within the city are at 400 Central Avenue, 275 First Avenue North, 1000 First Avenue, and 101 Main Street. Now, due to the specialized nature of crane operations, lowering or securing a tower crane is scheduled weeks in advance and is not a feasible solution within the time frame of the approaching storm due to the rapid intensification and the forecasted path. Now, while these cranes will be weather vaned, which is the safest way for them to operate during a storm, we want residents in the surrounding areas to be aware of this potential hazard. We are recommending that residents in this area either relocate or move into an inner room without windows as the storm is passing. This includes a stairwell or inner room in the building. The city is working to notify residents in the surrounding areas, and we are distributing informational materials to inform the residents of the potential hazard. Every resident in those areas should take the necessary precautions to prepare for this storm. We want to make sure you have all the information you need to make smart decisions as Milton approaches our state. As we start to feel the impacts from Milton in the coming hours, the city is closely monitoring the storm and will take all necessary precautions to prepare our city. Please take this storm seriously. Your safety is the greatest priority during this storm. I'll now turn it over to Yolanda for Spanish translation, and she'll be followed by our City Emergency Manager, Amber Bolding. Yolanda.
Thank you, Mayor. El huracán Milton continúa intensificándose rápidamente y está en camino de tocar tierra en la costa de la Florida. Esperamos vientos de más de 160 millas por hora, vientos que no recibimos durante el huracán Helene. También esperamos recibir entre 10 y 15 pies de marejada ciclónica, el doble que con el huracán Helene. Hay evacuaciones obligatorias en las zonas A, B y C y todas las casas móviles. Actualmente hay un refugio para personas y sus mascotas abierto en St. Petersburg, Gibbs High School. Hay recursos para ayudarle a llegar a ese refugio. Por favor, llame al 800-729-3413 hasta las 7 p.m. para asistencia de evacuación. Hemos identificado otro problema relacionado con grúas de construcción en el downtown de St. Petersburg. Debido a las velocidades potenciales del viento, hay 4 sitios de construcción que son susceptibles. Los residentes cercanos a esas 4 obras corren el riesgo de que las grúas se derrumben. Recomendamos que se trasladen a una habitación interior sin ventanas cuando pase la tormenta. Esto incluye una escalera o también una habitación interior en el edificio. En fin, todos los residentes de la ciudad deben tomar las precauciones necesarias para prepararse para esta tormenta.
Thank you, Yolanda. Amber?
Good morning. I want to start by thanking everyone who's followed the evacuation order that's been given and gotten themselves and their family to safety. For those of you who have not left yet and you're in an evacuation zone, you still have time. However, that window is closing. Please make your final preparations at your home and make your way to a shelter by tomorrow morning. Visit disaster.pinellas.gov for the latest open shelter locations, or you can call the County Information Center at 727-464-4333. Hurricane Milton will make landfall as a major hurricane somewhere near the Tampa Bay area. I want to caution everybody to focus too close on these small shifts that we see. Tampa Bay remains in the cone and very close to that projected center line. So on its projected path, Tampa Bay, St. Pete could see the northern eye wall of that storm, and any type of wobble could bring the storm right back over our city, just north of our city, which is that worst case scenario, or it could take it a little further south. We just don't know, and we have to prepare for that scenario of what the National Hurricane Center is telling us, is that of that 10 to 15 feet of storm surge and winds up to 100 miles per hour. I just want to remind everybody, once we get through this storm, with these high winds and this flood, we're going to see impacts like we've never seen before here in Tampa Bay. And I want to caution everybody, to be safe once we get through the storm. We don't want to go out. We don't want to sightsee. We're going to have hazards out there that we're just not used to. So we want you to shelter in place, stay at your shelter if you evacuated, and wait for official word from the city and from the county to let you know when it's all clear to get out. Our first responders will push out as soon as they can to help those residents in need, but part of that first push is also clearing the roadways so that we can get folks to the hospital and to emergency care if they need it. So the less residents that we can have out on the road, the better, and we'll continue to update that safety message as we get closer to landfall and we get to that recovery piece. I just want to end to say, please stay safe, please take care of one another, check on your neighbors, and we'll stay in touch with you throughout the process.
Thank you, Amber. We are really blessed to have a great congressional representative in Kathy Castor, who is always engaged in our community, even before a storm like this, but especially during this hurricane, engaging the federal government, making sure we get all the support we need. So just want to thank you for being here, Representative. I'd like to hear from you.
Thank you, Mayor Welch, and thanks to everyone here at the St. Petersburg Emergency Operations Team, to the St. Pete Police Department and Fire Rescue. I want to assure everyone, all of our neighbors across the city of St. Petersburg, that your federal partners are fully engaged in the preparation for Hurricane Milton. That includes FEMA, that includes the United States Coast Guard, that includes the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service. It was very important that the FEMA Administrator, Deanne Criswell, was here in St. Petersburg yesterday meeting with Mayor Welch and his team. She is assuring everyone that FEMA has the resources necessary to respond to this disaster. This is the largest mobilization of FEMA personnel in recent history, and they have pre-positioned supplies that are needed in the recovery phase and response phase as well. That includes meals, water, tarps, They have search and rescue teams poised to go out into the bay, into the waters, to make sure that they are able to respond to any life-threatening situations. We're also fortunate here in St. Petersburg to have a very active Coast Guard presence. And the personnel from Sector St. Pete and the Clearwater Air Station are poised for their search and rescue and their post-Hurricane Milton response activities. They are fully devoted to this community and keeping everyone safe and well. The National Hurricane Center has been issuing its updates, and I think it's very important that you listen to their terminology, because this terminology is unlike anything that we have heard in past decades. I don't remember any time, there's not been any time when a community was socked with a double whammy like we are about to experience. To have a devastating storm surge from Hurricane Helene, followed by the triple threat that Hurricane Milton poses to us. The National Hurricane Center is talking about that. Hurricane Helene was a devastating surge with little rain and not a lot of high winds. But this is the triple threat that we have feared for decades and decades, because it involves storm surge, it involves flash flooding, and it involves high winds. The National Hurricane Center emphasizes that Milton is expected to grow as it approaches the west coast of Florida. It will approach as an extremely dangerous hurricane with a large destructive storm surge that they call life-threatening. So follow all of the local authorities. Listen to what the City of St. Petersburg and Mayor Welch are advising about getting out of your evacuation zones. The National Hurricane Center is advising that these will be devastating hurricane force winds. They advise to protect life and property now. You have a rapidly closing window to secure your life and your valuables. They are predicting heavy rainfall, flash urban flooding that will all combine to increase the overall threat. And Mayor, I have to say I'm a little bit concerned, because I've heard from some people this morning that they think it will be okay if they're on a second story of a building. They think, well, after the storm surge of Helene, if you were in an evacuation zone but you were able to get up on the second and third story, you're going to be safe. I think that that is a colossal life-threatening error. Do not put your life at risk, because the National Hurricane Center also advises that after this catastrophe, large portions of the Tampa Bay area are going to be uninhabitable. You're not going to have power. You may not have other essentials. The time is now for you to evacuate. Take this storm seriously and listen to Mayor Welch and the St. Petersburg Emergency Response Team. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership and partnership, Congresswoman. Okay, we'll now take any questions.
Mayor, the cranes from these construction sites, these four mentioned, is that something that could have been addressed days ago or taken care of, taking those cranes down?
I don't believe so, and I'll ask my City Development Administrator or Don Tyra, our building officials, speak to it. But let me just say there are things that we're learning because of the strength of this storm. This was a tropical storm that turned into one of the most powerful storms in the history of our nation very rapidly. So we're learning things that we're going to use to update our procedures and processes going forward. But there's just no way in this window of time to bring those cranes down. We've never had a storm this powerful with winds this strong that would have required that. And so there are things that we're learning, just like our sewer systems, that we're going to have to incorporate in our planning going forward. Don, can you come give us some specifics on that?
Good afternoon. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The cranes at these construction sites that could be a risk to the buildings around them, is that something that could have been taken down days in advance? How long does it take to take these cranes down?
Yeah, so portable cranes for typical construction sites, that actually is a standard practice to either take the boom arm down and place it on the ground, or remove the crane in general. For the high-rise construction, the tower cranes, they're basically fixed in place, and they're erected. The crane basically builds itself as it goes vertical. Some of these cranes in the downtown area are 500 to 600 feet tall. And it usually takes about a week to plan any kind of crane jump or disassembly type process. And it's a specialized crew that performs that work. So with a storm approach, it wasn't even a hurricane, a week ago. So it's very hard to plan for that in advance.
What's your name and title?
My name's Don Tarr. I'm the city building official.
What are the winds need to be like for it to pose a danger?
Well, there's 4 construction sites with tower cranes on them. Each crane's a little different with their design wind speed for the structural integrity of it. 3 of the cranes are rated for 145 mile an hour winds. One construction site, they have 3 tower cranes, and they're rated for 110 mile an hour winds. And we have to be careful about that's every storm when it approaches the hurricane. We talk about the sustained wind. There are gust cycles in those storms, and the 3-second gust speed is really what could be a contributing factor. Remember, those winds only are very close to the eye wall, so we're looking at the cranes being a potential hazard if we basically get a direct eye impact in St. Pete.
Just to clarify, that's the speed it needs to be sustained and not gust?
No, it could be a gust wind speed. Yeah, they're designed for that. I mean, there's safety factors in the structural design of those cranes, but our advisory is basically if we anticipate wind speeds above 100, even though the safety factor is 110 to 145 for those cranes, it could be a potential hazard because of the gust wind speed.
Well, we had an 82 mile an hour gust in Helene, which was hundreds of miles away. I guess my question is it a good idea to have these cranes up during hurricane season in general?
Well, I mean, that is a factor, and typically the cranes are safe in weather vane mode up to about 100 miles an hour. So it really takes a direct impact from a storm that would possibly create this potential hazard.
Last question, I promise. Is that crane down because they haven't started vertical construction yet?
No, they dropped that crane, yeah,
So why
as a
did
safety.
they prepare but others didn't?
Well, again, that's a mobile crane, so they can do that. The tower crane, I'm just going to use one of the downtown project sites. It's 600 feet in the air. Okay, it's a tower crane that has a tower similar to a monopole tower for a cell tower site, and it has a T-crane portion of the jib arm that's attached to it, and it's attached to the building with tiebacks, and that's how they erect a high-rise, building.
Is that 400 Central you're speaking to? or
Yes.
275?
400 Central, yes. 400 Central is a concern because it's the tallest cranes. They have one at 500 feet, one at 600 feet.
So, I apologize, I really thought I was done. If one of those fall, what's that process like? It seems like it would be quite the ordeal.
It's variable. I mean, we plan for the worst case scenario, and that's why we're advising people to, shelter in place, go to an interior room. If you're living in an adjacent high-rise or mid-rise building, those are typically like the stairwell or the elevator core of the building. It would sustain any kind of impact, like that. And it's really just trying to be safe. Now, they don't have to, shelter in place there for the entire duration as the storm approaches. It could take a turn to the south, turn to the north, and we may not get those hurricane, winds. So, monitor the storm and then take appropriate action as needed.
Did the city communicate like a week ago when we were seeing this happening, like, hey, you might want to take down your cranes or be proactive in these?
We talked to the developers. It just wasn't practical to have any kind of work done to lower the cranes. And we sent out a notice to all developers. We do that on every storm. We visit all the construction sites, have them secure all the debris, try to make preparations best they can for the storm event, and we ask them to deal with the cranes. The mobile cranes are easy to deal with. It's the tower cranes that are the issue.
And how many tower cranes are there? 400 Central?
400 Central has 3 tower cranes. Yeah, 3 tower cranes. One is,
Permanent. That are the-
yes, yeah. One is for the parking garage. It's much shorter, maybe 100, 150 feet. And then there's 3 other sites, one in the downtown area, one in Carillon, one on in the 1000 block of First Avenue North.
what they should go through if that does happen?
Mayor.
Claude Tankersley, our Public Works Administrator.
Thank you for that question. So this, as we've said, is an unprecedented storm with unprecedented storm surge and wind and rain. Our hope and our desire is to save lives and keep people safe. So we have asked, everybody to evacuate that needs to evacuate. So therefore, they shouldn't be here. We do anticipate once the storm has left that we'll be able to get back on site to the 2 plants within 24 hours. And start back up the plants. So, and we have state resources and federal resources helping us out. We also have contractors helping us out. We've staged up so that we can get back on those plants immediately and get the water flowing as quickly as possible.
When could that happen, and then what do residents need to know if they did, if they are possibly still there, not to flush their toilet, what could happen? Could you
Sure.
speak to that, what might be the surge that will be turned off?
So we're expecting a 15-foot storm surge. So because of that, we are expecting to have to turn off 2 of our plants, the northeast and the southwest. After the storm, it's likely that we may not also have water service. If we do have water service, we do ask people, don't wash your clothes, don't wash your dishes, don't take unnecessary use of water. You can flush a toilet, but because we have capacity in the collection system before it gets to the plants. But we ask people who have stayed, we ask them to please limit their water uses. But again, we hope that most people have not stayed.
Claude, isn't Gibbs High School, the shelter at Gibbs High School, serviced by the Southwest?
Yes, it
plant?
is.
So is it possible that the shelter might be without toilets?
No, the shelter will be with toilets. Like I said, we can flush toilets sparingly, and we have a plan to be able to come in and if we need to, with tanker trucks, pull sewage out of the area where Gibbs High School is to keep it flowing.
Okay. It was mentioned yesterday, I believe, by Rob Burtis, that some areas might not have potable water. Is that affected? Is that the case? Like potable water might not?
So one of the things that affects potable water is tree fall. We're expecting a very, very high wind event for this hurricane, and so therefore we do expect a lot of trees to fall. When they fall, their roots pull up the water mains. So yes, we do anticipate to have water main breaks.
And that would be citywide or wherever?
It'd be countywide.
Okay, and you'd have to boil water in that event, or you just wouldn't have water at all?
You may not have water at all, and then when we restore water, you may have to boil it for a while before you drink it. You can use the water for the other purposes, but if you're drinking it, you would have to boil it.
And that would be communicated?
Yes, that would be communicated.
If water is turned off, can you give some recommendations to people on how they can kind of prepare for that situation?
So we should all be preparing for every storm season with our go bag, right? And our go case should include potable water, bottled water, and so people should have water with them in case something like this happens.
Can I ask about what's going on at Tropicana Field? Who's being staged there? How are those crews being serviced? How long do they expect to stay there? And is the Trop, it rains inside on a normal day. Is that going to hold up?
Do we have anybody that can speak to the trop, Rob? And as he comes up, I just want to speak to a couple of questions. This is the worst case scenario that we've talked about for a long time. This is the Hurricane Phoenix scenario that we've talked about. And so we have been telling folks for years, have your storm kit, have food and water for a week. And so that is the reality that we're facing right now. And after this is over, it's going to change the way we plan. It's going to change the way we look at infrastructure. So things like the crane that we hadn't anticipated before, had to deal with before because of the strength of this storm. We're going to be looking at everything we've done after action, and it'll be a new day in terms of planning and infrastructure in response to the new reality of sea level rise and climate change. Rob?
Thank you, Mayor. So first of all, I just want to thank all our partners. There's been amazing partnerships in this whole process, our federal partners, our county partners, and our state partners. And regarding Tropicana Field and the activities that are happening there, the Rays as our partners have been amazing in this as well. So we all know, and I loved what you said. It's a double whammy with a triple threat coming, right? And so we've got all this debris out there, and so there's been a rush to try and pick up as much debris as possible. So the activities are there, coordinated through the state to try and help pick up as much debris as possible before Milton hits. And then we've coordinated and done our own activities to try and get as much debris picked up. We've been very happy to have our contractor, Crowder Golf, in the city. They've been doing a great job. We opened up our own DMS at amazing speed thanks to our partnerships with the state and their help at the Raytheon site, so we can have individual private haulers and individual citizens come to the Raytheon site. And now we've also added a new program for private individuals who can haul truckloads to the Raytheon site to help us remove debris. So it's all part of a partnership, but the operation at Tropicana Field is related to removing debris as fast as possible before Milton comes.
Can you give us a ballpark? And I know it's probably a long shot, but you know, has it been 30%, 50% of Helene's debris been picked up?
I can't give you a number, Mark. I'm sorry. I mean, it's been all hands on deck, pick up every piece of debris that we can before the storm, and we just haven't had an opportunity to calculate that on a tonnage basis. So.
It was said yesterday that, you know, where the debris being picked up hasn't been tracked yet, or how much hasn't been tracked yet. The contractors are from like Alabama and out of state. How do they know where to go then to pick up debris?
Well, I mean, it's been coordinated through us and through the state. I mean, look, we're in the eye of the storm, and we're at risk here in St. Petersburg, but we also have to be concerned about our neighboring cities and our partners out on the beaches, and they've been damaged tremendously by Helene, and Milton is now barreling down on them. So a lot of focus from the state contractors has been on the beaches trying to get rid of that debris, while we use our contractor and our programs to focus more on St. Petersburg.
Mayor, you mentioned Hurricane Phoenix and that simulation. I believe that was like 4 years ago. Between the sewer situation and the cranes, I mean, this had to be anticipated that we would get the big one coming. Why isn't the city well prepared for something like that?
Well, the city's very prepared, and the Hurricane Phoenix I was referring to was a planning exercise of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and it's probably a decade ago, talking about what would happen if we got a direct hit. And so my point is, we have been planning, we've been investing in infrastructure at the Northeast wastewater plant, for example. There's a project under construction right now, a $70 million project in response to that would raise that plant to withstand 11 feet of storm surge. And that is progress, but now we're seeing that the storms are even more powerful than that. This is 15 feet. And so when I say we need to reset the way we're looking at infrastructure based on this new reality and the fact that climate change is happening quicker than we anticipated. You know, there was a range of, 2 to 7 feet increase by 2100. We've really got to reset that because those effects are happening right now. But the city is very well prepared. We've done an excellent job from debris pickup to handing out, I don't know, how many sandbags, Claude?
146.
Over 146,000 sandbags, getting the word out to folks, working with the county, working with the federal government, the state. We've done everything possible to make sure folks are safe. We don't have to lose one life with this storm coming, as powerful as it is, if folks would just evacuate. And then we're going to rebuild. It's going to be long, it's going to be tough, but I think we're in a great position. We listen to the science, we're prepared to act on that science, but our investments have to be more aggressive. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all stay safe.